The first thing I forgot was the grocery list. I didn't write it. Mark found it tucked behind the toaster. My handwriting, my little squares for check marks, the way I looped my G's like a treble clef, except I hadn't made one. He held it up between two fingers like a dead moth. "You left it here," he said gently, so I grabbed the milk. It should have been a kindness. Instead, the corners of the note scraped at me. I stood in our kitchen on Queen Anne Hill with the rain tapping the window screens like impatient knuckles, the citrus cleaner stinging my nose, and watched him stick the list under a magnet shaped like a crab we bought in Cannon Beach. My name was at the top in my handwriting. Nora. Don't forget, milk, rosemary, printer paper, call Mom back. I'd already called my mother that morning. I could hear her voice in memory, thin and grateful, telling me her begonias had survived the last cold snap. I could feel the phone warm against my cheek. "Must have slipped," I said. "Thanks for getting the milk." He kissed my temple. His mouth tasted like mint and coffee. "You've been so busy," he said. "No wonder little things fall through." Busy was true. I was a technical writer at a software company where everyone wore vests and said roadmap a lot. Deadlines thudded against my week like shoes inside a dryer. But busy wasn't forgetful. Busy wasn't whatever it was that made my stomach rock, as if my body had noticed something I hadn't. That night, I found the milk in the pantry instead of the fridge. Mark laughed when I held it up. "Okay, that one's on me." Or is it? He winked. "Who's keeping score?" I set the milk down and wiped a damp ring off the counter with my palm. The sponge smelled like yesterday's garlic. Our kitchen was the soft white of a design blog. Everything had its place. Everything hummed and clicked and slid like it knew its job. The list curled a little under the crab magnet. Ink bled at the edges where a drop of water had kissed it. I studied the N in Nora, my N, and felt the kind of ache you get when you look at an old school photo and can't remember the name of the girl standing next to you. If you can't trust your handwriting, what else can you trust? And who else is reading it first? I grew up in Ellensburg, a place where the wind had a personality and the sky took most of the workday for itself. My mom taught second grade. My dad fixed tractors until his knees asked him to stop. I was a neat child who lined up my pencils by length and slept better if the closet door was fully closed. My first A+ was for a report on how to care for library books. I believed rules kept the world from sliding off its axis. Mark was my opposite, and I fell in love with the relief of it. He had a laugh like an open window and used receipts as bookmarks and forgot umbrellas on purpose. We met in a grad-level UX writing seminar at UW. He sketched maps of imaginary apps in the margins of his notebook and passed me dumb doodles of our professor as a giraffe. He called me Nora with the good pens. When he asked me out, he took me to a Vietnamese place that smelt like star anise and rain-wet coats. And when I told him my favorite word was petrichor, he didn't roll his eyes. He wanted a view, I wanted a pantry. We found both on a street of cedar shingles and ambitious hydrangeas. Our condo faced the Sound. The air tasted like salt and metal. The ferries groaned their way across the horizon like old lions. I learned to sleep through gulls. He learned to put his shoes on the rack. My routine became a comfort I wore like a sweater that never pilled. I ran 3 miles around Cary Park Loop before work, cold air needling my cheeks, coffee roasters breathing into the neighborhood, and then rode the bus downtown with people in rain jackets in July. My job was to make complicated things readable. I made friendlier error messages and wrote documentation that tried to be kind. Mark freelanced as a product designer out of the second bedroom. He liked to work in bursts. He'd go hard for days, then take a Tuesday to wander through the REI flagship and text me photos of tents we didn't need. We had rituals: Wednesday pho, Saturday farmer's market, Sundays that smelt like pancakes and Windex. We didn't have kids. We said, "Not yet," until the phrase frayed. What I loved about Mark was the way he seemed to choose joy. He could turn a line at the DMV into a sociology field trip. He made friends with the barista and the crossing guard and the woman who walked 5 greyhounds like a kite. When he loved me, it felt like a steady sun. He had one sharp edge. He hated being wrong. He apologized easily for small things, forgotten milk, late text, but on big things, he argued like a man saving someone from a burning building. It just wasn't clear who was inside. The first real glitch was the time he told me I'd left the front door open. "Wide," he said, painting the air with his hand. "Come on, Nora, you know better." I stared at the deadbolt. My body remembered the twist, the dunk. "I locked it," I said. He shrugged, a little smile. "Then it ghosts likes our view." I checked our motion camera. The recording started later than it should have. "Weird," he said, peering over my shoulder. He smelled like cedar and detergent. "You probably forgot to arm it." Probably. Probably is a word that eats your certainty slowly, the way rust eats a rail. After the list and the milk came a week of small wrong notes. The hallway light left on when I never leave it on. My keys tucked into the blue bowl by the door when I always put them in my bag right pocket. A voicemail I didn't remember leaving my sister. "Hey, it's me again, sorry I keep missing you," when I hadn't tried yet. When I mentioned it, Mark smiled like I told a good joke about myself. "Stress," he said. "You've been slammed. Let me pick up some slack." He started unloading the dishwasher before I could, got the oil changed without asking, bought me a new planner in a shade of pale green called Sea Glass. He wrote, "You got this," on the first week with his sharp little caps. I should have felt held. Instead, I felt handled. One night, I woke at 3:11 a.m. to the soft glow of the living room. The rain had paused to listen. I patted out, cold floor, lemon cleaner ghost, and found Mark asleep on the sofa, the TV murmuring a nature documentary that had slowed the whole room's heart rate down. The coffee table held a glass with a print of his mouth, and beside it lay my planner, open to a day I hadn't lived yet. In the margin, in my handwriting, were words I didn't write. "Don't embarrass yourself at the stand-up." I touched the letters. The ink was dry and smooth, the way my pen's dry. I stood there until the fairy's horns made me jump. "Hey," he said, blinking, voice mossy. "You okay?" "I'd used my planner." He yawned. "Why will I use your planner?" I found a note I didn't write. He rubbed his face. "Babe." He patted the couch cushion beside him. "Come here." I didn't sit. The planner's paper felt thinner in my hands, or maybe I finally felt how thin it had always been. He said softly, "You've been forgetting things. It's okay, we'll handle it, but you have to let me help." The advice tasted like kindness. It also tasted like something else. The first spoon of a medicine I hadn't agreed to take. How many gentle reminders does it take before your life stops feeling like yours and starts feeling like a story someone else is helping you remember? The day the fire alarm went off, I was the only one who didn't smell smoke. It was a Tuesday that pretended to be November, even though the calendar argued for May. The sky was a flat lid. Cold air sneaked through the window latch and licked my ankles under the desk. I was leading our 9:15 stand-up from the guest room, the taste of toothpaste still minting my mouth, when the detectors screamed alive. High metallic chirps that made the inside of my head prickle. "Hold," I said into my headset. "Fire alarm." Mark sprinted down the hall with a dish towel, fanning the air like an orchestra conductor trying to save violins. "Babe," he called, "pan on high. Did you forget?" The kitchen smelt like hot metal and lemons, not smoke. The stove was off, the oven was cool, the red light on the detector blinked like an eye pretending to believe you. "I didn't cook," I said, palm flat to the oven door. "You know I haven't had time." He tilted the detector down with a broom handle until it went quiet. "Huh," he said. "Maybe it's the toaster." Our neighbor texted, "Everything okay?" I sent back, "False alarm," and my heart rate typed a second message inside me. What if it wasn't? Later, I found a blackened pan hidden under the sink, its bottom charred into a map of an unfamiliar country. I held it up. The burnt smell reached for me. "Did you do this?" I asked. Mark laughed. "I don't use that pan, Nora. You do." "I haven't used it in a week." "Maybe you're more tired than you think." He set the pan on the counter, then pulled me to him. His sweatshirt was soft and smelled of dryer sheets. He kissed the top of my head. He said, "We'll keep an eye out. We're a team." That afternoon, my manager, Slater, pinged me. "Everything good? You were quiet in stand-up." I stared at the chat window and heard the alarm screaming again, shrill then silent, like a heart monitor on a soap opera. I wrote, "Did I say something weird?" He wrote, "Not weird, just, you repeated yourself a bit, all good." I wrote, "Cool, stress." He liked it with a thumbs up that felt like a sticker you give a kindergartner for not crying at drop-off. That evening, Mark poured me a glass of red wine bigger than my future. "You need to relax. Let me make dinner." He played our chill playlist, piano and rain and a woman whose voice was a bruise, and hummed around me, sweet and competent. He put rosemary on the chicken because the list had said rosemary. He used the blackened pan. The kitchen smelt like Sundays that love you. We ate, we watched an episode of a show about a detective who remembers crimes out of order. We were a couple that could be posted on Instagram with the caption, "This one." At 11:06, as I brushed my teeth, I noticed a pill bottle in the cabinet that wasn't mine. Beige label, my name, Norma Hart. Zolpidem tartrate, 5 milligrams, take 1 by mouth at bedtime. The name typo was either an insult or a coincidence. I stared at the label until the steam from the shower fogged my view of myself. "Mark," I called, mouthful of mint, "when did I get sleeping pills?" He appeared in the doorway, towel around his waist, hair a dark halo. He said, "Last week, you were waking up a lot, remember?" I did not remember. A small stone of fear sank through me and hit something I didn't know was there. "You called the doctor?" I asked. The mirror threw back my face, and a stranger's confusion layered over it, like a glitch in a video call. He said, "Televisit, 10 minutes. I was with you. You said you were having trouble staying asleep. You sounded anxious." I swallowed. The toothpaste burned a little. "I don't like how this feels." "What feels?" "This, being told I did things I don't remember." He stepped closer, hands up as if calming a wild animal. "I'm on your side," he said gently. "You're going through something. Stress can scramble you. I'm trying to catch the pieces." He kissed my forehead. The mint in my mouth suddenly tasted bitter, like old pennies. I put the bottle back where I found it and felt every hair on my arms stand up, like my body had caught a draft my brain was pretending didn't exist. What does it mean when your caretaker carries a lighter and you're the one who smells smoke? I started keeping a log, not the pretty planner. Paper can be forged if the forger lives with you. I used the Notes app on my phone and locked it because a passcode felt like a superstition I needed to practice. Wend, 6:43 a.m. Planner had note I didn't write. 8:13 a.m. Fire alarm, no smoke. 11:06 p.m. Sleeping pills with my name? Norma? Whisper fight in mirrors. Whisper because I'd started talking to myself in the bathroom with the shower running like a bad spy movie. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I was trying to think in a place I could hear myself. The log made me feel steadier. If something happened, it had a timestamp now, a digital breadcrumb with my thumbprint on it. When I doubted, I would scroll and read my own words, like a lighthouse keeper checking the flame. The next week, Mark found my wedding ring in the microwave. We'd been married 5 years. I hadn't taken it off long enough to forget it existed. He held the ring like a riddle. This where we're storing jewelry now? I didn't put it there. He smiled, eyes soft. Babe, no one else could have. Couldn't they? The maintenance guy had come to fix the dishwasher Monday. He'd smelled like rain and peppermint gum and listened to sports on his phone as he worked. He had been alone in our kitchen for 5 minutes when I ran to the bedroom for the service check. 5 minutes is enough to move a life around if you know which drawers to open. When I suggested it, he laughed, gentle. You think the maintenance guy hid your ring in the microwave? He shook his head, like I'd said a cute thing. Sweetheart. I picked up the ring. It was cold and damp, like it had been washed and not dried. My stomach rolled as if I'd stared too long at a spinning screen. That evening, I bumped into her neighbor in the elevator, a woman named Teresa who wore scrubs and smelled faintly of antiseptic and lavender. You okay? She asked, and the question landed like a hand on my shoulder. You've looked pale lately. Work. A lot of meetings. She nodded in that way nurses nod when you say, I'm fine, and they write, kept eye contact, but shallow breath. She said, if you ever need a ride to urgent care at night, knock. My husband sleeps like a log. I laughed. The elevator chimed. The doors opened on our floor. Someone had taped a flyer to the wall. Community meeting, security cameras, building access, Friday 7 p.m. A phone number was listed below it. Property manager, J. Shepler. I texted the number. Quick question. Does our building keep hallway cam footage if tenants request it? The reply came fast. Yes, rolling 14 days. Unit? 304. Reason? Misplaced item. Come by office tomorrow. The footage showed me walking down the hall Wednesday night at 11:03 p.m. Hair up, wearing Mark's gray UW sweatshirt. I balanced something on my palm. The angle was bad, the pixels a shrug. At 11:05, I returned empty-handed. I looked tired. I looked like a woman who might forget milk and rings and doors. See? Mark said, later, watching over my shoulder like a director approving a cut. You brought something to the microwave. It's not clear. It's clear enough to me. His hand landed on my shoulder. I flinched, and he removed it as if I had shocked him. Hey, he said, hurt. I'm trying to help. I didn't trust my memory. I didn't trust his concern. I didn't trust the building's grainy eye. I fell asleep to the sound's low animal moan and dreamed of lists I hadn't written themselves. On Saturday morning, my sister Alana called from Portland. She eats life like a crisp apple and doesn't keep anything in a drawer that could live on a shelf. You sound weird, she said. I'm fine. You sound like you're trying not to cough. I told her about the list, the ring, the pills. I felt silly as the words came out, like I was telling a ghost story at noon. I said, he's being sweet. It's just, I don't feel like me. Are you safe? Alana asked, her voice dropping into that tone she used the night our father missed a step on a ladder and walked it off like men do. I said yes, automatically.
And then again, smaller, as if to make the first yes true. "Come stay," she said. "Bring your laptop. Mark can survive on his own for a week." He'd be hurt. Maybe he should be. After we hung up, I looked at Mark across the kitchen. He was making pancakes, humming, flipping them with that wrist flick he'd learned from YouTube. He looked like a magazine page. He looked like a husband. The spatula clicked against the pan. The smell of butter lifted. He slid a stack onto my plate and kissed the top of my head. "Got a big week?" he asked. "Always. Want me to call your doctor and ask about the dosage?" "Don't," I said. Too fast. The word clanged. His eyebrows lifted. "Okay," he said softly. "Okay." I ate pancakes and tasted ash but couldn't see. I stared at the crab magnet and the list beneath it. The N in Nora was mine. The don't forget looked tired, like someone tried to copy me and learn the shape without the soul. What's harder to question? A man you love, or a version of yourself that can be printed?
The first twist arrived with a text to a number I didn't know I had. "Nora, it's Jess from Doctor Who's office. You missed your memory screening today. Are you okay?" The message landed at 12:14 p.m. on Thursday. I was at my desk, crumbs of a desk granola bar, gritty in my molars. My calendar showed no appointment. I hadn't called Doctor Who in a year. "I don't have a screening," I typed. "We scheduled last week, per your husband. Concerns about mild cognitive issues." My stomach dropped so fast I felt the floor heave. "Who authorized?" "Mark Hart. He was on the video intake with you." "I wasn't." "We can reschedule." "No. Please cancel. Do not schedule without me again." I stared at the blue bubbles until they cooled. My hands shook. The office smelled like coffee gone bitter. Rain ticked the window like thrown rice. I walked into Mark's room. He had his headphones on, screens full of wireframes like city maps. "Hey," I said, "did you schedule me a memory test?" He slid one ear cushion down. "Yeah," he said, like I'd asked if he'd ordered pizza. "You said yes last week." "I didn't." "We sat with the laptop on the coffee table. You were wearing your gray sweater with the elbow patch you hate." The details were so mundane they sounded true. I pictured myself on the couch, my sweater, the laptop fan whirring, and the memory did what memories do when they're told a story strong enough. It tried to accommodate. The space he pointed to in my mind warmed like a seat someone had just stood up from. "I canceled it," I said. "Don't do that again." He looked hurt and then smoothed it. "I'm trying to help you. I don't want to lose you by inches." I swallowed the reply that jumped. "Maybe you already are." I hated the me who thought it. That night, I took a long shower and let the water drum the back of my neck until my skin pinked. When I turned off the tap, I heard voices. I froze. Mark's and another, lower, in the hallway. I opened the bathroom door a crack. The air smelled like steam and fabric softener. The voices stopped. Our door clicked shut softly. My phone buzzed on the counter where I'd left it to avoid answering Slack in the shower. A new message from an unknown number. "Bring a sweater tomorrow. 10 a.m. Cary Park. -A? Who is this?" Silence. "Alana?" I added. "Yes. Come alone." My pulse thudded in my ears. The mirror threw my face back at me, raw and honest. I texted, "Is everything okay?" "Tomorrow," she wrote. "Don't tell him."
I didn't sleep. The fairies moved across the sound like silent arguments. The red numbers on the clock were a metronome for dread. At 9:48 a.m., I told Mark I was going for a run. He looked up from his laptop and smiled. "Proud of you," he said. "Take your time." Kerry Park was all postcard. Space Needle, water, mountains pretending they weren't shy. But it smelt like wet dog and coffee and the exhaustive tour buses that coughed every half hour. Alana stood by the railing in a thrifted coat the color of a bruise. Her hair was a storm cloud. Her eyes were our mother's on a snow day. She hugged me hard. She said, "You look tired." I said, "You look like an indie song because banter is our bridge over cold water." She didn't smile. She handed me a paper bag. Inside, a small digital recorder, a fresh notebook, and ballpoint pen from her clinic. "Start recording at home," she said. "Conversations. Where you put things. Your side only. Keep a written log separate from your phone. Hide both." "I already keep notes." "In your phone?" She shook her head. "If he has your passcode, he has your brain." "He doesn't have my passcode." She arched an eyebrow. "He has your Wi-Fi, he has your face when it's asleep, he has your everything." I stared past her at the view that brochures love. My chest felt like a drawer that sticks. "I know what you're implying." "I'm implying nothing," she said. "I'm telling you, he's gaslighting you." Classic. Textbook. The word landed heavy and then sunk into me like it belonged. "Are you sure?" "Am I sure the sky is wet in Seattle?" she said. "Start the recorder, Nora." I did. My voice sounded small and stubborn. Thursday, 10:14 a.m., met Alana at Kerry Park. She said, I couldn't say the word into the recorder yet. I just let the rain fill the silence. Alana squeezed my shoulders. "If I'm wrong, you'll have a weird audio diary. If I'm right, you'll have a rope." A golden retriever shook rain onto our jeans. A toddler wailed and then forgot why. The city looked like a postcard for a life you could buy if you knew which door to knock on. "Do you want to stay with me?" Alana asked. I said he'll be hurt again and heard how rehearsed I sounded. So be it. I put the recorder in my inner jacket pocket and felt the small weight like a second heartbeat. "Okay," I said. "Okay." If the truth is a room with a locked door, sometimes you need a key you don't know how to use yet, and a witness waiting outside. For a week, I became a collector of scraps. I carried the recorder like a secret. I started it when Mark and I ate breakfast. It's 8:06. He says I left the kettle on. I didn't boil water. I started it when I put my keys in my bag. Right pocket, right pocket, right pocket. I started it when I went to bed. Pills, back of cabinet, cap tight. The microphone heard things my memory alone had begun to muffle. The way Mark said, "Are you sure?" like a charm bracelet. The soft click of the cabinet after I put the bottle away. The kettle whistle from a kitchen that wasn't ours. YouTube cooking video autoplay. On Tuesday, I came home to a spreadsheet printed and left on my desk. Norris slip-ups, the header read, in Mark's cheery font. Date, time, incident, resolution. 0512, left door unlocked, Mark locked. 0514, missed mom call, Mark returned. 0516, put milk in pantry, Mark moved. At the bottom, italicized, we're team, this is how we win. He'd drawn a smiley face that looks like it wanted to be trusted. I recorded myself reading it out loud. My voice shook. I wrote in the notebook Alana gave me, he is building a case. Against me or for himself? Both? That night he asked if I wanted to try a higher dose. "You're still twitching in your sleep," he said. He traced my wrist with his finger, a soothing circle that made my skin crawl, as if it were a thumb on a bruise. "I'm good," I said. He nodded, let it go. He had learned that pushing made me stiffen, so he didn't push. He drifted gently, like a current you only notice when you're already far. On Thursday, the building manager emailed about the security meeting. Attendance encouraged, the message read. Recent concerns about footage access. I went. Mark didn't. The room smelled like dry carpet and lemon disinfectant. People complained about packages that walked away, teens tailgating through the garage gate, a guy on the second floor who practiced trumpet at midnight. After the meeting, I lingered and asked the manager if a tenant requested footage from the camera outside 304 last week. Would that show here? He clicked in a spreadsheet. Heart? Yeah. 2 downloads. Sunday 11 p.m. and Tuesday 9 a.m. Who requested? Heart. He didn't ask which heart. He didn't need to. In the elevator, the recorder in my coat pocket whirred on. He is archiving me, I whispered to it. He is manufacturing a paper Nora to hold up to a light when he needs to prove the real one is faulty. Friday morning, I put my ring on and said its placement out loud into the microphone. I took a photo of my hand on the stove clock, 8:21. At 11:40, my ring was on the bathroom counter. Another photo, 11:41. I texted Alana both shots. She texted back, a single eyes, and then, do not confront yet, gather. That afternoon, Mom called. Your sister says you're having a rough patch, she said gently. I could hear her spoon tapping the sides of a mug. Your father used to lose his wallet and swear gremlins lived in the house, she chuckled, then coughed. Are you okay, sweet pea? I don't know, I said, and cried for the first time. Tears tasted like metal. The recorder caught me breathing like I'd run too fast. The next day, Mark left me a bouquet of peonies on my desk. Pink, heavy, fragrant like June. A note tucked in. For the hardest worker I know. Dinner at Lupo tonight? M. He made far too specific reservations for a place we loved when we were a we, not this careful we-ish we'd become. I put on the gray sweater with the elbow patch I hated and thought about Alana saying it out loud at Cary Park. I started the recorder, slid it into my purse, and went to dinner. Lupo smelled like garlic and money. The servers wore shirts the color of thunder and moves like people who know where everyone will be 5 seconds from now. We ordered the gnocchi that dissolves on your tongue like an apology. Mark held my hand across the table. His palm was warm, his smile easy. He looked like the man I married. He looked like the man who had set my ring on the bathroom counter so he could move it later and show me where I left it. He said, I miss us. I said, me too, because missing is a habit. He traced the circle on the table with the base of his wine glass. You've been different. I said, I've been scared. Of what? Of losing myself or having you tell me I have. His face softened in a way that made me want to climb over the table and live there. He said, Nora, I'm on your team. Then stop keeping score. He looked hurt. The good man in him blazed to the front of his face, and for a minute I doubted everything. Then the server placed the check, and I watched Mark slide a card out from his wallet, and I saw, tucked behind it, a business card I'd never seen, Braddock and Keene, PLLC. The letters looked like a quiet room. I pretended not to see. I smiled. I kissed him at the door of the restaurant. I went to the bathroom and locked the stall and started shaking so hard I had to sit. The recorder in my purse hummed like a live thing. When I came out, Mark was on the phone near the host stand, turned away, voice low. No, she's fine. Then listened. Then, yeah, next week. I'll get her to sign. I didn't confront him there. I didn't cry or run or break dishes. I did what women who have been told they misremembered do when they finally don't. I went home and backed up the recorder to 3 places and texted my sister, it's a divorce attorney. She replied, of course it is. Get your stuff in order. If love is a ledger, what do you call it when one person balances it with lies and the other starts writing in the margins?
Alana gave me 2 choices. Leave now, quietly, with a suitcase and my laptop, or stay a week and build an archive heavy enough to dent a courtroom table. Leaving buys you safety, she said. Staying buys you leverage. I don't want to fight him, I said. You're already in a fight, she said. He just chose weapons first. I chose a week. I was scared of what short memories do when they go before a judge. I wanted a stack of paper so tall it changed the angle of the light. I told Mark I was going to visit Alana next week. Girls thing, I said. He smiled and offered to drive me down. I said no, and my voice was so reasonable he didn't hear the hinge. I spent 7 days documenting my life like a court reporter. I recorded every conversation. I photographed the location of objects. I screen captured the building's camera logs showing Mark's downloads. I printed the spreadsheet he'd made me and highlighted the places where his language turned from we to you. I called Dr. Who's office and requested my records. They faxed over a single sheet with a jagged signature that wasn't mine. I also did something that made me feel like a spy. I checked our shared cloud drive's deleted files. There they were, scans of documents Mark had tossed, a draft of a separation agreement with clauses about concern for spouse's capacity, a letterhead for Braddock and Keene, a list of assets with posted digital notes. Move funds post-signing? The question mark tried to soften its theft. I saved everything. My thumb drive felt like a relic. My email to myself felt like the smallest insurance policy in a city full of people who didn't know me and never would. Mark was gentle that week. He brought me tea at my desk and kissed my forehead and called me kiddo the way he used to when we drove to the ocean with a bag of Doritos and a list of songs we were going to sing and then didn't. He asked how work was and listened and grinned at the right places. It was almost crueler than his notes. One night, as we brushed our teeth side by side, he said, voice thick with foam, "Remember when we tried to make that lemon tart and forgot the sugar?" "We didn't forget," I said. "We mismeasured." He smiled at our mirror selves. He said, "You forgot, light as lint." I spat. I looked at my face. I thought of the recorder in the drawer by the sink. I thought of the bag in my closet packed with underwear, a sweater, the peony note, the spreadsheet. "I leave Saturday," I said. He rinsed. He looked at me. His eyes were the color of the sound before rain. "Okay, have fun." If choosing means stepping into a boat you know may capsize, sometimes you step anyway because the dock is rotting under your feet. The unraveling began on Friday with a knock that wasn't a knock. I was working, headphones on, when the door opened and Teresa from 302 stuck her head in. No knock because the door had been left on the latch. "Nora," she called. "You home?" She smelled like disinfectant and coffee. I yanked off my headphones. "Hey," I said, heart drumming. "Everything okay?" She held up a package addressed to us that had been delivered to her by mistake. "Thought you'd want this. Also," her eyes cut to the door. "You might want to keep it locked. Guy was lingering in the hall earlier asking about units. Said he was with maintenance but didn't have a badge." "Did he go in any apartments?" She shrugged. "He tried handles. I told him to beat it. He beat it." After she left, I checked our door camera. The footage was gone from 11:20 to 11:34. A cliff where a bridge had been. The system logged a network interruption. The rest of the day was intact. I felt the cold breath of someone blowing out my pilot light. At noon, my phone lit with a text from Mark. "Gonna work from the coffee shop. Wi-Fi's acting up. You good?" "Fine," I wrote. "Love you." The words burned as they left my thumbs. I wanted him not to be the man my evidence said he was. I wanted the future in which the list and the ring and the pen were coincidences and the attorney's card was a weird freelance gig. At 2:03, the building manager called. "Miss Hart? We have a tech here this afternoon to check the hallway cams. Is it okay if he tests third floor outside 304? "Absolutely not, without me," I said. "I'll be right down." The tech wore a company polo and a badge. He smelled like dust and peppermint gum. His name tag said Rex. He nodded Playboy polite. The manager hovered. "We had a blip earlier. Odd." I watched Rex check cables. I watched his hands like a hawk. I recorded his badge in a photo and his truck in another. I asked for a service ticket. He printed one with our unit number and his signature. For the first time in days, my confidence lifted its head. At 4:16, I found an envelope on our doormat. Inside, the separation agreement. Mark had highlighted sections and added post-its in his neat designer hand. "This protects both of us," one said. Another, "We can handle this like adults." A third, "I love you, but you're not yourself." The words arranged the room around me. I waited for him on the couch, the recorder humming under a throat pillow, a glass of water sweating on the coaster. Rain began in earnest. The sound went from steel to slate. When Mark came in, he brought the smell of wet wool and espresso. He saw the envelope in my lap and smiled the way you smile at a child about to open a gift she asks for. "I didn't want to spring it on you," he said. "You left it on the floor," I said evenly. His smile tilted. "I figured you'd want to read." "I did, and I have notes." He sat. He left space between us, the way a good man does when he wants you to feel safe. He looked into my face like it was a mirror he could adjust. "You're not being punished, Nora. It's a path. You've been struggling. I want to make sure we're both protected." "Protected from what?" I asked, voice light like dry leaves. He sighed, a soft release. "You're forgetting. You're creating stories. I can't trust you to remember important things." "You mean things like you scheduling a memory test at my doctor without my consent?" I asked calmly. "Or you downloading hallway camera footage to use as proof that I put my ring in the microwave?" He didn't blink. He didn't flush. He just tilted his head the way he does when software behaves. "You're paranoid," he said gently. "I'm trying to help." I put my phone on the table. Its recorder glowed. "I talked to Dr. Sue. She sent me the intake you forged." "Nora." "I talked to the building manager. He gave me logs. You pulled footage twice and network interruptions happened around our door when someone tried the handle." His face remained a lake. "I'm worried about you," he said again, as if I hadn't spoken. "Then stop arranging them," I said quietly. A small thing in his eyes hardened, then smoothed. He reached for my hand. I let him take it because I wanted the recorder to hear the sound of the gesture. "You don't have to fight me," he said softly. "I love you." The second twist walked in just then, as if the apartment itself wanted to cue it. My phone buzzed with an email notification. "Subpoena ducis tecum, Hart versus Hart," in the subject line. It was from Braddock and Keene. Attached, a request for my medical records, my employment records, my functional capacity. The date was Tuesday. The plaintiff? Mark. He had already filed. I looked at him. I felt very calm. The recorder caught the way my breath evened out, my voice lost its wobble. "I filed 3 days ago. You don't want a path. You want proof." "Proof of what?" he asked. His voice was soft, the tone of a kindergarten teacher coaxing a child to nap. "I'm unfit," I said, "so you can keep the house and the accounts and the story." He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize.
He pressed his lips together in a line, then let them relax. "We can make this amicable, if you sign." I picked up the pen, uncapped it, and wrote on the top page of the agreement, in my neat, looped hand, "I do not consent to any characterization of cognitive decline." Then I slid the pen back and said, "I won't sign this, and you should get a different story." If a trap closes and you're inside, sometimes your first tool is naming the metal.
Saturday morning dawned silver and wet. I put the last of my packed things in the trunk. Detergent smell, a folded clothes, cardboard rasp. Alana texted, "On my way," with a coffee cup emoji that felt like armor. I left the recorder on. It felt superstitious and necessary. Mark stood in the doorway in a flannel shirt, like a Pacific Northwest cliché, and leaned against the frame. "You're really doing this," he said. Not quite a question. "I am," I said. My chest felt hollow and steady, like an empty instrument waiting. "You don't have to run," he said. "We can talk." "We talked," I said. "You made a spreadsheet." He laughed short. "I made a spreadsheet because spreadsheets are how the world makes sense. You made a spreadsheet because you were building a case." "Nora," he said, like he was tired of reading the same paragraph. "What do you want me to do? Let you forget and pretend it doesn't matter?" "I want you to stop making me forget," I said. He went still. It was subtle, a shift in the shoulders, a quieting. "That's a serious accusation. So was filing for divorce, claiming diminished capacity," I said. He rubbed his jaw. "Okay," he said finally, voice flat. "Let's say you're right, and I am trying to control the narrative. Why would I do that unless there's something to control?" "Because you're cheating," I said, the word a stone thrown at glass. It came out truer than I expected it to. I had no picture, no lipstick on a collar, but the attorney's card and the businesslike rhythm of his actions aligned into something ugly and familiar. And because splitting assets with a wife who's unwell costs less. He didn't flinch. He looked at me with a kind of clinical pity that made me want to punch a wall. "If that helps you," he said softly, "I won't take it away." "Who is she?" I asked. He shrugged. "Irrelevant." I picked up the folder with the subpoena and my copies. I slid it into my tote with the care of someone packing a newborn. The apartment smelled like coffee and the rain through the window screens. Somewhere a fairy horned, long, then longer. "I'm going to Alana's house. Detective Ames will contact you Monday." I didn't know if a Detective Ames existed. I had an appointment with a lawyer, and the name sounded like a person who made forms into consequences. He laughed again, a sound with no oxygen in it. "You think a detective cares about a woman who misplaces milk? I think a judge will care about a forged consent form, altered footage logs, and a spreadsheet you titled Nora's Slip-Ups." I hit the question mark hard and watched it land. Silence gathered in the room like humidity. Mark's face changed, not a lot, but enough. The good man retreated. The efficient man stepped forward. His voice, when it came, was clean. "You're making a mistake. This will get uglier than you think. It already is, and I'm not the one making it." He stepped aside, a courtly gesture at the door. "Then go." I walked past him. My tote strap bit my shoulder through my sweater. The hallway smelled like someone's bacon and someone else's bleach. I reached the elevator and pressed the button. The pop of the light was small and triumphant. The doors slid open. Teresa was inside with a laundry basket balanced on her hip. She took in my face, my bag, Mark leaning against our door 5 paces away. She said softly, "You want me to ride down?" "Yes," I said. We descended. The elevator hummed. Teresa set her basket down, put her hand on my forearm, and pressed something into my palm, a small USB drive. "From the building manager. Yesterday's raw feed. He thought you might need it." I closed my hand around it. It was warm from her skin. "Thank you." And the words felt like water. Alana pulled up to the curb in a Honda with a cracked taillight and a bravery playlist. She leaned over, opened the passenger door, and said, "Get in, sailor." I got in. I didn't look back. As we crossed the bridge, the city opened into itself. The water was the color of a decision. I cried like someone who had been holding her breath in polite rooms for too long and finally stepped outside. Alana drove and didn't say, "I told you so." She turned the heat up. She handed me napkins like confetti. At a red light, I looked out at the sound and thought about how ferries look slow until you realized how far they've come between one glance and the next. Leaving, I realized, isn't sprinting. It's miles, then more miles. It's no longer saying probably when you mean no. If survival is a story, the climax is not always the scream. Sometimes it's the moment you close a door softly and take the stairs. Resolutions in court come in beige rooms that smelled like old paper and coffee left too long on a warming plate. My lawyer's name was Michelle Nguyen, and her superpower was asking questions that felt like kindness and turned out to be traps for lies. We didn't need a detective, it turned out, just patience, and a judge with a daughter my age. The judge listened to Mark's narrative of my decline with the face good judges make, polite, almost bored. Then Michelle slipped the stack across. Photos, logs, prints, the forged consent form, the spreadsheet with its smiley face, the USB with the hallway feed that showed a man and a cap jiggling our handle during the network interruption. Mark's lawyer tried to object to half of it and failed at 2/3. The judge looked at Mark the way one looks at a child who thinks he's hiding behind a sheer curtain. "Mr. Hart," she said mildly, "do you understand the difference between concern and control?" He said he did. His voice was smooth, his foot tapped. The court didn't care about cheating. Private shame isn't a legal event. But they cared about fraud. They cared about manufactured evidence attached to a claim of incapacity. They cared that I had recorded, dated, logged, saved. The separation became a divorce, with terms that didn't punish me for being a person in a world where men like to rearrange versions of women and call the new arrangement the truth. I kept the condo. I kept my retirement. I kept the peony note, because pettiness should be curated. He kept his accounts and his designer guilt. When I returned to the condo, Teresa taped a post-it to my door. "Proud of you, 302. I stuck it inside the pantry next to the crab magnet. I kept the grocery list, the first artifact in my new museum of not crazy. The first morning alone, I made coffee and stood at the window and watched a blue heron move like a thought. The kitchen smelled like citrus and cinnamon. The fairy spoke, long and then longer. I wrote my own list. Milk, rosemary because I like it, call mom just because. And then I called my mother and told her the begonias had a fighting chance. Mark texted once, then stopped. "No hard feelings," he wrote. We both did what we had to. I didn't respond because some silence is a fence and some is a field, and I was learning the difference. In the evenings, I ran my loop and felt my feet remember what streets do when your body believes you. I slept through the night with the window cracked to let in the sound's tide and the city's soft animal breathing. The kettle sang, and I turned it off and wrote it in a log no one would ever read. If resolution is ordinary, that's the point.
People think gaslighting is a house on fire. Sometimes it's a house where the lights flicker and someone you love says, must be the wiring, and hands you a flashlight with dead batteries. Mark didn't make me forget. He made me distrust what I remembered. He curated my life like a gallery and hung labels under each moment that said Nora misplaces and Nora forgets and Nora needs help. He thought if he said it enough, I'd put the sign on my own chest. I used to believe safety was a good lock and a person on the other side holding a key. Now I think safety is a witness. Sometimes the witness is your sister with a recorder at a park. Sometimes it's you, writing down the day so the day can't be argued out of existence. I am not brave in the way movies show bravery, all speeches and fire. I am stubborn. Stubborn is the quiet twin of brave. Stubborn is how you keep choosing the version of yourself that remembers, even when someone tries to hand you a prettier story. If love is a room, it needs windows. If marriage is a game, I prefer the kind with rules written down and referees and a clock you can see.
I still make lists, but I sign them with a smile no one else can forge. When the kettle sings, I answer. When the light trembles, I replace the bulb and I label the box myself.